Welcome back all of you to the online class of biology. So in the last previous videos we have studied about the cell, its structure, different organelles, etc. Okay, so let me teach chapter 10, that is cell cycle and cell division first, and then I will be teaching you the ninth chapter, that is biomolecules. Okay, so cells division is a very important process in the formation of in the life of all organisms, because almost not all the organisms starts their life from a single cell. This, isn't it, zygote you have studied, and from this single cell only all other millions of cells are formed in an organism, isn't it? So, and this growth and reproduction are characteristics of cells and of all living organisms, isn't it? And while cell division takes place, each cell get divided into two daughter cells in mitosis. We will be studying that in detail, okay, in this chapter itself. And this newly formed daughter cells, they again divide and grow, and they divide and grow, and the number of cells will get increased, isn't it? So such cycles of growth and division allow, okay, or due to this division and growth of cells, from a single cell a number of cells are formed due to this cell growth and cell division. Okay, so cell cycle, why it is known as cell cycle? So cell division should takes place in a coordinated way. Okay, during cell division what all happens? DNA get replicated, isn't it? Then cell growth takes place. Okay, then so all this process should takes place in a coordinated way, otherwise what will happen? There will be lot of problems. Okay, so this sequence of events by which a cell duplicates its genome means DNA replication. Duplication means what? A single DNA will get divided into two. So if as there is 46 chromosome in each cell of human being, first what will happen? They will double it. Okay, the DNA content will get doubled. So that is what happening in DNA replication or in the duplication of genome. Then other components of the cell also has to be synthesized, like what? If the cell has to divide and two daughter cells should form, all the components of the cell should also be formed in this. Okay, then what? This component should be equally divided into the daughter cells, isn't it? So all this sequence of events by which a cell duplicates its genome, then synthesize the other constituents of the cell, and eventually divides into two daughter cells is called what? Cell cycle. Clear? But as these all process should takes place in a orderly manner, otherwise what will happen? It will lead to mutation or other problems. Okay, so all this should be taking place in an orderly way, and all these events are called what? Cell cycle. Okay, then in these all processes, DNA synthesis that can take only once. Okay, then the replicated chromosomes that will be distributed to daughter cells, daughter nuclei, okay, by a series of events that we are going to study, and each of this will be under the genetic control. Okay, genes controls all these processes. Is it clear? So the distribution of the DNA content, which is already duplicated, multiplied we cannot say, what they produce, each DNA produce one more copy. Okay, so 46 chromosome if a cell is, human cell is having, first it will be doubled, then this doubled DNA will be equally distributed to the daughter cells. Okay, then what happens? Other components like other organelles are also there, no? Their multiplication, their distribution, all this will be done during the cell cycle. Okay, so we are going to study in detail about the complex series of events, okay, that takes place during the cell division, like how the genetic material is getting distributed equally, okay, not in a single step. In different steps this processes takes place, and we are going to study them in detail. Okay, so a human cell takes around 24 hours to complete its cell division. Okay, and during this cell cycle, okay, the duration, okay, of the cell cycle varies from organism to organism, and also from type of cells to means from cell types to another. Okay, and cell cycle can be divided into two basic phases, that is interphase and the M phase. Okay, what are they? Interphase and M phase are the two phases, or the cell division can be divided into two stages. What are they? Interphase and M phase. Okay, so interphase is actually not where what division is means it is the resting stage, you can say, where the components of the cell get multiplied. Okay, and interphase is also known as the resting phase. It is just known as the resting phase, but at that time also lot of processes are going on in the cell. Okay, for example, the cell growth, okay, DNA replication, all this are taking place, but the visible division, the distribution of DNA, that takes place in the M phase. And you can see that this M phase, okay, that will be taking place for a small short period of time, and around 95% of this 24 hour is for the interphase, where what happens, the cell prepares itself. Okay, DNA replication takes place, means it synthesizes all the materials to be distributed to the daughter cells during the interphase. And during the M phase, the actual cell division or mitosis takes place. Understood? So cell cycle can be divided into two phases. What are they? Interphase and M phase. Interphase is also known as the resting phase. Okay, why? Because the distribution is not taking place at that time, only the synthesis. Okay, even though it is known as the resting phase, it is not simply the resting phase. It is the phase where the cell growth takes place, DNA replication takes place, etc. Understood? And in M phase, what it is, the actual cell division phase. Okay, where the distribution of this prepared or formed doubled DNA takes place, and all other organelles takes place. Is it clear? And the M phase, okay, is taking place again in two separate stages, that is the karyokinesis and the cytokinesis. So what is karyokinesis? The division of nucleus is known as the karyokinesis, and the division of the cytoplasm is known as the cytokinesis. Okay, so this much is clear. Cell cycle is of two types, or takes place in two stages. What are they? Interphase and M phase. Interphase is also known as the resting phase, where what happens, the synthesis of what components, or the replication of DNA, etc. takes place. Cell growth and replication of DNA takes place during M phase. Okay, during the interphase. And in M phase, what happened? The real cell division or mitosis, where what happens is the distribution of this prepared or the doubled DNA takes place, and that also takes place in different stages that we are going to study in detail. Okay, and the interphase is the long phase when compared to the M phase. Okay, that is 95% of the duration of cell cycle is the interphase. Okay, and interphase can again divided into three different phases, like G1 phase, S phase and G2 phase. So in G1 phase, okay, you can see that it is the interval between the last mitosis and the initiation of DNA replication. Okay, means daughter cells will be formed from the last mitosis, and then what, the cell will grow, the daughter cells which are formed will grow and it will get prepared for the S phase. So between this, okay, that is the last mitosis and the initiation of DNA replication is called what, G1 phase. And in this phase the cell will be metabolically active and they continuously grows, but there is no DNA replication, means the protein synthesis, organelle formation, all this will be taking place during the G1 phase, and there won't be DNA replication. And this DNA replication takes place in the next phase. What is that? S phase. Okay, synthesis phase. So during synthesis phase, what happens is the DNA replication takes place. So what do you mean by DNA replication? DNA replication is the process by which a DNA molecule, okay, where you can find the DNA, we have studied that chromatin material is having what, DNA and proteins and some RNA. Okay, so this chromatin material, where you can find chromatin material? In the nucleoplasm, isn't it? This chromatin material will get contents to form what, chromosomes. And in chromosomes, these chemically if you see, chromosomes are made up of what? DNA, protein and RNA. Okay, so this DNA will be seen as a linear molecule. Linear means what? From top to the bottom of the chromosome, they are arranged linearly. Okay, and you can see the DNA there. Understood? So this DNA molecule will get replicated, means what? From one DNA, 2 DNA molecule will be formed. Okay, so what happened? We are having 23 pairs of chromosomes in each cell, isn't it? So there are total 46 DNA molecule in our each cell. Okay, and each of this DNA molecule will form one more copy. That is happening in what? DNA replication. But there is one thing to remember here. Even though the DNA get replicated, DNA's number get replicated, chromosome number will be same. Understood? Chromosome number of a cell during interphase will be same. It will not be multiplied, because I will explain that when we study the process of cell division, that is during the metaphase or anaphase. Likewise I will explain you. Okay, so even though the chromosome number or even though the DNA get multiplied, means duplicated, okay, the chromosome number will remain the same, because there won't be longitudinal division of the chromosome takes place during this phase. Okay, during the S phase only the replication of DNA takes place. Is it clear? So you can see that if the cell had diploid or 2n number of chromosomes at G1 is what? The phase which is just before the S phase. Even after S phase is what? Where DNA replication takes place, isn't it? The number of chromosomes will remain the same. Okay, and then after the S phase, the next phase is what? G2 phase, isn't it? And in G2 phase, protein synthesis takes place. Okay, and the cell will be prepared for mitosis. Okay, so this is happening in the different stages of what? Interphase. Interphase is also known as resting phase, and it is divided into 3 phases. What are they? G1 phase, S phase and G2 phase. In G1 phase, cell growth takes place. Clear? Then protein synthesis etc. takes place, and then it will be entering into the S phase, where DNA replication, the process by which DNA is forming each DNA molecule in a cell form one more copy, but it will be attached to the same chromosome. So the number of chromosome will not change. What will be changing? The amount of DNA will be doubled. Is it clear? Then the cell will enter into the G2 phase. In G2 phase, what happens is the same process that started in G1 phase continues. Okay, so these are what various phases of interphase. Okay, and in animal cells, okay, during S phase, DNA replication begins. Okay, that takes place in the nucleus, isn't it? DNA is present in the nucleus. And centrioles, do you remember centrioles? Where they are located in centrosomes, isn't it? Its duplication takes place in the cytoplasm. Okay, and T2 phase, same, means the processes that started in G1 phase will be continued in what? G2 phase. So this is clear. So this is happening during the interphase. Now some cells, okay, especially in animals, they will not divide continuously. Okay, they need, their division is needed only occasionally. Means if any injury happens, okay, if any cell death happens, then to replace that particular cell, okay, that damage should be repaired, isn't it? So for that, new cells has to be formed. That time only this kind of cells will divide. Otherwise, they will enter into an inactive stage. Okay. They exit the G1 phase, means from G1 phase they exit and they will not enter into the S phase. Okay, and they remain as the inactive stage, and this is known as quiescent stage or G0 stage. Okay, G0 stage of the cell cycle. Okay, so these cells will be metabolically active. They do their functions. For example, the cells of heart, cardiac cells. Okay, and they do their functions. Okay, and they will not proliferate or they will not divide and form next cells until they are they demand. Okay, if there is no demand, then the cells will not enter into the cell division, and they remain in the quiescent stage or G0 stage. Okay, and you can see that in animals, diploid somatic cells. Somatic means the cells which are not taking part in the reproduction. Okay, there are two types of cells in the body, isn't it? Somatic cells and the reproductive cells or gametic cells, isn't it? So all other cells in our body, including the cells of fingers, liver, kidney, okay, or toes, all these are somatic cells, and gametic cells are only what? The sperms and the egg. So this somatic cells, okay, mitotic cell division can take place only in the diploid cells. Okay, and on the other hand, in plants, both haploid and diploid cells can undergo mitotic division. Okay, so we have studied that many of the lower plants are having haploid cells in their body. They are haploid, isn't it? So they divide. They can divide by mitosis and they can grow. But in animal cells, it is not like that. Okay, in animal cells only the diploid cells, diploid somatic cells can only undergo mitosis. Okay, and in plants, both diploid and the haploid cells can undergo mitosis. So, hope you understood this topic what we have studied here today, that is cell cycle. Okay, cell cycle. So, how can you define cell cycle? The sequence of events by which a cell duplicates its genome, synthesis the other constituents of the cell, and eventually divides into two daughter cells. That orderly process is called what? Cell cycle. Okay. Then I have told you the cell cycle can be divided into two phases. What are they? Interphase and M phase. Okay, interphase is what is also known as the resting stage. Okay, and M phase is known as the real mitotic phase. Okay, interphase is the phase where there is no distribution of the content or the duplicated DNA takes place. Only what happens in this, the preparation of the cell to get divided into two daughter cells will takes place. okay, and that is divided into, and that is the prolonged phase of the cell cycle. Which one? Interphase. And it is divided into different stages like G1 phase, S phase and G2 phase. G1 phase is the phase where cell growth takes place, okay, along with the protein synthesis, okay. And in S phase is the phase where DNA replication takes place. DNA replication is the process whereby the DNA molecule get duplicated. It produces one more copy of it. Okay, so that takes place in S phase. And G2 phase is the phase which is the continuation. The processes that started in G1 phase will be continued. Like what? The synthesis of proteins, okay, the other organelles, etc. Understood? Then I have told you the quiescent stage. This is a particular stage where the cells exit the G1 phase and remain as the inactive stage. Okay, so the M phase, where the actual distribution of the DNA which is formed, okay, takes place in different steps, that we will study in the next class. M phase and the various phases of M phase. Okay, so hope this much is very clear to you. Clearly you understand this. This is very important portion of biology, so you have to learn along with the diagrams. Okay, make rough notes or main points you please note down in your copy. Okay, thank you.